Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you. Yeah, thank you,
Still.
Chidebere. Yes.
Still with more.
All right, let's get into this next discussion now. It's day 5 of the siege to Senator Dino Melaye's Abuja residence, and the police is not backing down.
They're not at all, and they want him to answer for allegations leveled against him. We will review different perspectives to this issue and, of course, the legality of the siege, if the senator's rights are being trampled upon or otherwise.
Dino Melaye is wanted by Nigerian police for a case of criminal conspiracy and attempted culpable homicide committed on the 19th of July 2018 when Senator Dino Melaye and his armed top attacked police personnel, shot and wounded Sergeant Danjuma Saliu attached to 37 Police Mobile Force Squadron in Lokoja, Kogi State. These personnel were on stop and search duty along Ayetoro-Gbede Mopa Road in Kogi State. The police operative, with a duly obtained warrant of arrest, deployed to arrest Senator Dino Melaye still in his residence and will not retreat until Senator Dino Melaye surrendered himself for arrest and investigation. It is also on record that the police investigators submitted a letter of invitation dated 23rd July 2018, signed by the Commissioner of Police, Kogi State Police Command, and addressed to the Clerk National Assembly, Abuja, inviting Senator Dino Melaye to report on 26 July 2018 at 11:00 hours at the Kogi State Police Command, July 2018 at 11:00 hours at the Kogi State Police Command, CID, Lokoja, to answer to a case of criminal conspiracy and attempted culpable homicide against him under investigation in the Kogi State Police Command.
Yeah, police spokesman there, Jimoh Moshood, reeling out some of the basics to, or the basis rather, to the police laying siege to the home of Senator Dino Melaye, the senator representing Kogi West Senatorial District at the Senate. We have our correspondent now, Sifon Essien, who has been monitoring developments on the police versus Dino Melaye standoff since it began on Friday right there in Abuja. Now, Sifon, it's good to have you join us. What are the developments? We heard that the police had thrown tear gas canisters in Dino Melaye's home sometime. They got that report. Can you tell us what's new?
Yeah, good morning, Mike and Ngos. It's actually day 6 of the siege by the police on the residence of Dino Melaye here in Abuja. And back to that question, we don't have any record of tear gas being fired into the residence of the senator. We've been covering this every day, and we don't have it on tape, we don't have it on record. We are not witnesses to that. But the situation right now is that the police have even reinforced even more. This is the largest number we have seen ever since we've been covering this siege, since it started on Friday, and police trucks and vans, you know, zooming past, and operatives have been mobilized in their numbers. It's not just the Zanga streets where the residence of Senator Dino Melaye is that has been taken over by the police, but much more so the adjoining Mississippi, you know, street has also been taken over by the police. It's actually a lockdown, and the police insist that despite they are having a warrant to arrest the senator, they want him to actually submit himself, because they have it, according to the police, they have it on, they have reasonable suspicion to believe that the senator is actually in the residence. If not so, that's what the police is saying, he should have showed up in Kogi State at least to stop the police from further mounting a siege to his residence.
And of course, the police has said they will not leave until the senator submits himself or surrenders, in their own words. I mean, because I was really going to ask, you know, how long this siege was going to last. Now, is there any sign whatsoever that you are able to read that there is a serious likelihood that Senator Dino Melaye is actually within that premises or in the house, according to you know, police claims?
Well, I've actually talked to one of or two of the operatives on this operation, and they told me that they can bet their jobs on it, that the senator is in his house. Now that's how sure they have put their jobs on the line. Now that was off the records, but they are too sure. That's the police now. They are too sure that the senator in question, Dino Melaye, is in his house.
All right. Sifon, we'll come back to you. Let's bring you to the studio now. We have joining us a human rights lawyer, Inibehe Effiong, in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you join us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy New Year to you.
And congratulations to TVC for the media award.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, I know you've been following this development since Friday that it started. Now, there are questions also coming up as to whether the police has gone or had gone too far beyond the ideals when it comes to the fundamental rights of Senator Dino Melaye, especially from the window of the fact that electricity to his house has been cut, the water supply to public water supply to his house has been cut.
What the police has done, in my view, can be examined in two perspectives, legally and politically. And I'll start with the political basis for the action. You are aware that before this siege at his residence, Dino had raised an alarm that there was a plot allegedly being planned by the police to have him arrested and killed. You know, whether it was a false alarm or not, I don't know, but that was what he claimed. You're also aware that the first spokesperson, Jimo Moshood, had publicly debunked and questioned the credibility of that report by the senator. He had said they were not even looking for him, to the best of my knowledge. So when we subsequently read that the police had gone to his residence to effect an arrest, one wonders if really they were looking for him. Why did they have to deny ab initio that Dino was being sought after to respond to alleged criminal conspiracy and an attempt to commit culpable homicide, as they put it? That is the starting point. Secondly, this is a political season. Elections are close. The senator is a candidate in Kogi State. He's contesting election. Campaigns are going on. There is also the impression being canvassed by a section of the public that if Dino Melaye is arrested, that would deprive him of the opportunity of campaigning and seeking re-election into the Senate. That is beside the point. And again, you are also aware that Dino Melaye has had series of issues with the police for a while now. He has about 2 pending court cases. He has been charged for attempt to commit suicide and some other offenses which are pending before courts of competent jurisdiction. So when the police now sought after him again, we wonder really what the criminal records of this senator is, that they have to look for him every day. But that is outside the allegations against him, which he has to respond to. Now, let me go to the legal aspect of this. Can the police arrest a senator? The answer is yes. The senator is not covered by immunity under Section 308 of the Constitution. So he can be arrested. Does the police require the consent of the Senate President, as Saraki insinuated? Or does the police need to seek the approval of the leadership of the Senate before a senator in Nigeria can be arrested? The answer is no. All that is required under Section 29 of the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act is that where a member of the National Assembly is arrested or is in custody on the orders of a court, the court should, as soon as possible, put the leadership of the National Assembly on notice in writing.
Now, as soon as that notice is effected, in this case, the notice was transmitted to the National Assembly, according to Jimo Moshood, on the 26th of July of 2018. And on the same day, Senator Dino Melaye was expected to make himself available to answer to these questions of, culpable homicide and, of course, the attempted murder of a sergeant who is still, according to the police, still, in very, very precarious situation in the hospital. Is Dino, the senator in question here, on the same day that, that notice is put forward to the National Assembly, is that really the same day that he should make himself available to the to answer to those questions?
Just to clarify,
Yes,
the police need not inform the National Assembly before they effect an arrest.
But they did.
The law says after. For them to have even sent a notification to the National Assembly was purely an act of courtesy.
Okay.
It is not a requirement under the law. And I challenge the Senate to come out and tell us what law had that procedure.
So what
all
does
they
the
need
law...
to, either upon arrest, either Section 29 of the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act, upon arrest of a member of the National Assembly, pursuant to an order of a court, or when a member of the National Assembly is remanded, the National Assembly is, or convicted, is to be notified. So for the police to have written to the National Assembly to produce him, they had done very well, and I commend them for that. But for Dino to have declined to honor that invitation was wrong. There's a probability that the charges against him, the allegations against him, may be politically motivated. But the police is still the law enforcement agency in Nigeria. The police has the statutory power under Section 4 of the Police Act to enforce law and order. When allegations are made, citizens should turn up and respond to them.
Yeah, have they violated his rights by cutting light and water to his house?
Clearly, they have. By going to that extent to disconnect power from his residents, to disconnect water supply, that has no basis in law. Clearly, what they have done is a contravention of his right to family life and privacy under Section 37 of the Constitution. Can the police forcefully gain access into Dino Melaye's residence? As we are, because for me, realistically, I believe that this search is unnecessary. Yeah, they don't even have to reinforce. If police has reasonable suspicion, reasonable belief that Dino Melaye is actually in his residence, what is stopping them from gaining access into the residence?
They're gaining access in what way? Would it require breaking into that premises? Because police is
that
adamant.
will have another implication.
Yeah,
maybe.
the police is adamant that, you know, that they suspect that the subject here is actually within the premises.
Well, just to,
and they have a warrant
yes,
in their hands.
Yes, just to clearly state what the law says on arrest. Under the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2014, Section 4 clearly states the mode of arrest, that it authorizes the police or any person who has power to arrest to touch and confine the body of the person sought to be arrested, except when there is voluntary submission. Under Section 5 of the same act, clearly the police is not required to put unnecessary restraint by way of handcuff where the person, except there is an attempt to escape or for the protection of the suspect or pursuant to an order of the court. Again, you can also go further. Under Section 8 of the same act, the police is required to protect the dignity of a suspect or an accused person. What they have done now by cutting the discontinuing power supply in his house, and the water and all that, is clearly a contravention of his right under Section 37 of the Constitution to privacy and family life. It is also an infringement on his right to the dignity of his person under Section 34 of the Constitution, as also guaranteed under Section 8 of the ACJA. And lastly, and more importantly, under Section 12 of that act, where a person who there is a valid warrant for arrest is believed to be in a place and access is denied, that law allows the police to break both the outer and inner door and windows to have access to the residence. Okay. This is a statutory provision that the police can exploit. Okay. So why they have to lay a search and reinforce, shut down the street, as far as I'm concerned, is completely unnecessary. If truly Dino Melaye is in his residence and they have invited him and he has declined to honor their invitation, they're empowered by law to forcibly gain access into the residence.
And if the warrant of arrest expires while the siege goes on, what happens then? No,
the warrant is not going to expire.
It doesn't.
Once the warrant is issued on the order of the court, it has to be enforced. What I am effectively saying is that to stop this siege, let Dino Melaye voluntarily surrender himself.
Whether he's within that premises or whether he's elsewhere.
Because even as at this morning, I saw his tweets. He's still tweeting. Meaning that this person is alive, and if Senator is still tweeting, the police have a way of tracking where he is. So this shouldn't be a mystery. Let the Senator surrender. If he declines to do so, and the police is convinced that he's in his residence, they can gain access to it. This sensationalization and dramatization of the whole thing is completely unnecessary. But again, as I said, this is a political season. Let Dino Melaye surrender himself. If he's detained beyond 48 hours allowed by law, he can approach the court to enforce his fundamental right to personal liberty. The police should also be open to admitting him to bail. if he's eventually arrested.
No.
So we
All
don't
right,
need
from,
to
in
to
the
do
eyes
this
of the
drama.
law, in the eyes of the law, from what you have said, the Senator Dino Melaye himself could or would or must have taken wrong steps by not giving himself to the, or maybe even reaching out to the police since he was invited to the police. And on the other hand, the police too may not have also done well in the area of the way they lay siege to his home. But talk to us about the ideal. If he has case to answer, for instance, from the beginning, from the start, or from the scratch, what is the ideal way of approaching this issue?
It's to invite him.
Okay, which they did.
It's to invite him, which they did.
All right.
When a citizen has committed an offense, or there's reasonable suspicion that someone has committed an offense, you extend invitation to the person, let him come and respond to the allegations. Except where someone is caught at the scene of crime, in the act, in which case you don't even require a warrant, you can effect an arrest. Section 24 of the Police Act allows for this. You can effect an arrest. But for him to have been invited, and he had notice of the invitation as stated by the police, and he declined to honor, that was wrong. For the police to now go to his residence, lay search on the property, even disrupt movement on the street, disconnect electricity and water supply in his house, that for me shows bad faith on their part. That really, are they after Dino Melaye for alleged offenses he has committed, or this is just pure persecution? So why do you need to do that? It's completely unnecessary.
What are the implications for the human rights perception about this government in itself? I mean, it's not being scored very well when it comes to human rights. What are the optics?
What we have seen over time in the last, since the commencement of this administration, there has been a consistent pattern. What is happening to Dino Melaye is not surprising to me. You're also aware of the case of Deji Adejanju, who is being detained in Kano State. I was before a judge of the High Court of the FCT just on Monday that gave that order. And in the course of the matter, I had you know, the judge had to make an indirect reference to that case. You have a situation where someone is said to have been discharged and acquitted by an order of the court, and the person is still being detained, clearly in contravention of Section 36 of the Constitution. And nothing is being done about it. He was arraigned before a magistrate court, despite that the magistrate has no jurisdiction over the offense. The Supreme Court has said there is no holding charge in Nigeria. Once the court has no jurisdiction to entertain a charge, you don't have jurisdiction to remand. When a court is bereft of jurisdiction, the law says the proper order to make is to strike out the charge. That is what should have been done. You're also aware of the case of El Zazaki, who was granted bail. He was denied bail for over a year before he was arraigned in a court in Kaduna State. You are aware of the killings of the Shiites. You are aware of the killings of the IPOP members. So there has been consistent infringement on fundamental rights of Nigerians under this government. Where some of us are making a strong case is that this shouldn't be making news when the political class is involved. The case of Dino Melaye is not peculiar. It is what every Nigerian, most Nigerians suffer daily in the hands of the police. So let the National Assembly use this opportunity to do a legislative intervention, to reform our laws, to check the exercises of the police. Look at the NSAS campaign. The number of Nigerians who are being killed, number of Nigerians who are being detained unlawfully. Even as a lawyer, I know how many times I have had to intervene in the wrongful detention of Nigerians.
All right, we'll come to this. Let's go back to Sifon Essien, our correspondent at Dino Melaye's home. Now, Sifon, you said earlier that there is even a reinforcement of police personnel at the home of Dino Melaye. Can you let us know if there are restrictions of movement of any kind?
Basically, when you have this number of reinforcement, it becomes a psychological issue. Anybody seeing this number of police operatives on the streets or in a neighborhood, that psychologically, you know, many people become restricted mentally, but they are managing the traffic situation very well. Residents of the area are allowed to drive into their homes and drive out of their homes at the moment. But this is the largest number of police operatives we've seen ever since we've been covering this siege. We've had from several units, the anti-terrorism units, mobile police operatives, the regular police operatives, and a whole lot of them are the residents of the senator, because they have, and I repeat, reasonable suspicion, that's according to the police, that the senator is in the house. Now, I've asked the Force Public Relations officer time and again before now, since they have the warrant of arrest, why not just apply force and effect the arrest? Well, he says that they are waiting for such a time to carry out the action, if that is, if the senator in question does not submit himself willingly for arrest.
Yeah, and such a time is what we don't know right now. Siphon, what are you hearing from members of the National Assembly, the senators, or even the House of Reps members in their response to this siege at the senator's residence?
Well, the fact is that the position of the senators, particularly his colleagues of the PDP, has not changed. They've condemned the siege as it is, but they've not spoken beyond just condemnation. They've not taken any other action. I also gathered that the senator, through his lawyers, attempted to secure an order of court to stop the police from continuing with this siege. Now, if that has succeeded before the court is what we're going to know as the day progresses.
All right. Is there any news about members of Senator Dino Melaye's family who may or be in the house or not, as the case may be? We haven't heard so much about members of the, because if there's a siege in the house, are members of his home allowed to go in and out, or they are also being shut down in the house?
Now, we also hear that some members of his family inside the house. They were occupants of the house before the siege started. And for everyone inside the house, no one is allowed to come in, no one is allowed to go in, save for his brother, Moses Melaye, who has been in front of the house, but for a couple of days now, we've not seen him in front of the house. He's actually sitting in front. He says he won't move an inch until he knows exactly what the police are going to be doing if his brother doesn't show up. But no one is allowed inside, no one is allowed outside. For the security operatives and one or two domestic staff who were held outside, they're still being held exactly where they were held. That's the situation. They maintain status quo since Friday till now. No one allowed, I repeat, no one allowed into the Senator Dino Melaye's house. No one allowed outside of Senator Dino Melaye's house at the moment as it stands. All
right, Siphon Essien, let me put you on hold as we come back to Inibere Effiong right here, who's a lawyer, who will give us the legal perspective to all of this. Okay, now you heard from our correspondent there. The arrests were effected, on his Senator Dino Melaye's security. And as it stands now, nobody is able to go in or out of the premises.
It is wrong. It is wrong. Because under the SCJ, arresting someone in lieu of a suspect is forbidden. You cannot look for Mr. A. Because you have not seen Mr. A, you now arrest Mr. B. That is clearly outlawed in Nigeria, so there is no basis for that. The person they are looking for is known. His identity is not shrouded in mystery. For the police to now deprive other occupants of the house entry and exit is clearly again an infringement on the right to freedom of movement. This is unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. There is no need for this dramatization. If Dino Melaye is in his residence, let him turn up himself. He should allow the police to exercise their statutory obligation, their statutory powers. If the police is sure that Dino Melaye is in his residence, what is stopping them from getting access into it? They don't need to put up this drama. But again, as I have said, this is a political season. So most times, these issues are taken over by political sentiment and not what the law says. The police did not have to do all this. If Dino Melaye is in the residence, they can have access to his residence. They can have access to it. Again, as I have said...
But then, have you, stopped to even ask yourself why or how come in the first place that Senator Dino Melaye had some kind of heads up that there were plans to arrest him, which the police denied, but only eventually for that to actually happen?
No, he knows. Because
what does that say about the system, both within the police itself? If there was such a plan being hatched and the plan actually leaked.
It is a fact that the institution of the police is clearly dysfunctional. The policing system in this country is not working. From credibility to integrity to personnel motivation to equipment to professionalism, the police is completely off the point. The police in Nigeria has even been rated as the worst in the world. So when things like this happen, we should be able to situate it properly. We should put it in context that this is a manifestation of the general decay in the police force, where that you now have citizens having prior information that they are being sought after, and the police even coming out to deny it. Why did they have to deny it? Why did the police have to deny it if the search for Dino Melaye is not politically motivated? If this man has really committed an offense and you are looking for him, why did you have to deny that you are looking for him? The man is contesting election. We have a few days to election. He has to campaign. And the said offense was allegedly committed several months back. You did not arrest him. Even on the days he showed up in court in Kogi State, you did not arrest him and arraign him. Now we have a few days to election, you are looking for him. These are the political realities that we have to also appreciate. But on the basis of law, you cannot say the police has really done anything by going to look for him in his house. For me, for them to even be waiting outside and not forcefully breaking in is also a good thing.
It's courtesy.
It's courtesy. It's purely an act of courtesy. Because by law, they don't need to do that. If they are certain or they reasonably believe Dino Melaye is dead, they can break in. But of course, this is also a class thing. If the police were going to look for a man on the street, they would not be waiting to wait for the man to come in. Everybody on the street would have been picked up. But because this is a senator, you see the preferential treatment. That is the point I'm making. That
so you could actually say that the senator is not reciprocating the good gesture or civility
no, it's not.
On the part of the
It's not. He may
police.
also be aware that maybe they want to keep him in custody till the end of the election process.
All right. Now, let me stay with you. Talk to us. One of the allegations against him in the case of the murder is that one of his thugs was involved in shooting a police officer and all of that. Now, from the report, he was not the one who did that. It was one of his thugs. In the eyes of the law, how culpable is that in that mix?
Well, because I'm not aware of any pending case on that, I can comment freely on it. First and foremost, you see, the Nigerian police, we need to do something about it at a given time. When you say a policeman was shot by a thug working for Senator Dino Melaye, has that thug been arraigned in court? Is he being sought after? That is the principal suspect. You've not arrested him, to the best of my knowledge. You've not charged the person who allegedly shot the policeman. There is no pending charge against anybody arising from that act that was allegedly committed. So, you now looking for Senator Dino Melaye is, for me, very funny at this time. If really this happened, why was, again, were there no policemen in the convoy attached to Senator Dino Melaye on the date of that incident? Senator Dino Melaye obviously would have had police protection on that day. So if thugs attached to him opened fire on the police, why was Senator Dino Melaye not arrested at the scene? These are the questions that the police have to answer. So when we see these things, we have to contextualize it, that this is again another evidence of the institutional decay in the Nigeria police.
And of course, I mean, this seems a bit complicated because in the case why this siege is going on, there's culpable homicide and attempted murder. And then there is the other case of attempted suicide. You know, you recall when the police was trying to transport Senator Dino Melaye to Kogi.
Yes.
He allegedly jumped out of the vehicle, which could have led to his, you know,
and there was a
death.
video that said that I will kill myself and put you in trouble.
You know, this man is what Nigerians could call a drama king. He takes pride in controversies. But that is, again, beside the point. Let the right thing be done. Let the siege be ended. I'm calling on the senator to surrender himself, mobilize his lawyers to secure his bail so that he can go and face his election. Because eventually they will get him. If they are really determined to get him, they will get him.
Okay, now this is day 6. Of course, our correspondent Sifon Essien has been on this, our defense correspondent. He's been on this matter. He's still very much there in Abuja, you know, at the, well, somewhere close to the residence of Senator Dino Melaye, because according to Sifon, you cannot really go beyond you know, where he is right now to actually get closer to the residence. Sifon Essien, what else can you tell us? What are we to make of this, you know, seemingly endless siege? Are you hearing at all any inkling as to when this siege will likely end?
Well, there's no indication as to when the siege would end, but I can tell you more and more police operatives are being deployed here. The reinforcement is even more than I mentioned earlier, more than we've ever seen ever since we started covering this siege. More police operatives, several units are coming in here. Well, giving us suspicion that perhaps maybe there's going to be twists with the entire tale eventually as the day or the hour ticks on. But it's a lockdown as it appears, although they've been cautious enough to a large extent, allowing us to drive through, but we're not allowed to wait or to stop. And this is how far we can come, or how close to the house we can get at the moment. And that's how far they've kept us at bay and allowed us to cover this siege at the residence of Senator Dino Melaye.
All right, Sifon, let me stay with you. His lawyer, Michael Zekome, has said that Dino Melaye has not had access to food for about 2 days now, and that his fundamental rights are being infringed upon, which the lawyer in the studio has also affirmed to. But can you still confirm that the light and water, as at today, as at now that we're speaking, are still cut from the home of Senator Dino Melaye?
We are not aware that there's been any change to the electricity and water supply to the house, which had been cut. We're not aware that it has been restored. Until we are aware of that, we will report that. But the situation from this point remains the same. The siege continues, and just like you've said, his lawyer has also made a protest, and that gives an indication of the situation as it is happening and unfolding in my time here.
Okay.
Inibere, of course, Dino Melaye, Senator Dino Melaye has a lawyer, Michael Zekome, who has, emphasized the fact that this is a breach on the fundamental human rights of Dino Melaye. Now the water situation and the light situation is still the same. It's been cut. You want to, just paint a picture for us of what this means for the members of that household, including the senator himself, if he's actually there.
What if there is an emergency that requires power to respond to? What if human life is being risked as a result of this primitive action by the police? When things like this are done, when police go overboard to exercise their statutory functions in this manner, it clearly paints them in bad light. It clearly erodes whatever principle that guides modern-day policing that they may want to claim. The police is not there to enforce law and order. If you are there to enforce law and order, why are you disconnecting power and water supply from his house? That means they can as well set the house on fire just to look for Senator Dino Melaye. So this is completely unnecessary.
And you know what they say about setting fire to the bush just to catch...
Again, his lawyer says he has been deprived of food for 2 days. How did he know?
Well, he's his lawyer.
It's his lawyer.
That means the senator is in the house.
Well, it could be
if
anywhere.
He's not in the house.
He's been tweeting like you confirmed.
That means he's in the house.
Yeah.
It corroborates the belief of the police that is likely there. If he's deprived of food for 2 days, it means he's deprived of food for 2 days. It means he's within the residence. If he's outside the residence, is there no restaurant for him to eat? Let us not sensationalize the matter. Let the lawyer advise his client to surrender to the police. Let the counsel accompany his client to the police. If he's not admitted on administrative bail, the senior advocate of Nigeria knows what to do. The government knows what to do. So why do we need to continue with this drama?
And I'm even trying to figure out whether indeed, since the water and light have been cut, the police is not the Water Corporation, neither are they the PHCN, which means that other agencies have been involved in this. Is that what we're to
as a matter of fact, under the Power Sector Reform Act, and even under other legislations in Nigeria, unlawful disconnection of power in Nigeria is a criminal offense. So those policemen should be arrested and charged to court. The policeman who disconnected power from his residence should be made to explain legally why they did that. We should not allow this kind of primitive behavior in Nigeria. It portrays us in bad light before incendiary claims.
Okay. Yes, indeed.
No,
Thank
the
you very
international
much.
community cannot take us seriously. When the police have to disconnect power, disconnect water from the house of a citizen because you are looking for the person.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Inibere Ifyong is a lawyer giving us a legal perspective, of course, to this development sixth day of police siege at the home of Senator Dino Melaye, representing the Kogi West Senatorial District.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
And we thank our